Residents in Nunavut's capital flock to a nearby river for clean water. More than 7,000 people in Iqaluit have been without clean tap water for 2 days now.
Huples cat. Generally, when you think about water in Canada, you have an image of beautiful lakes, pristine snow, and general abundance. And this is mainly true for parts of Canada. Other parts of Canada, principally the north and indigenous areas, have suffered from contaminated water and are still suffering them, which is a huge shame for Canada. But recently an event happened, got me thinking, and I talked about it before. Petroleum contamination of your water source and grid down, what would you do? Iqaluit has actually got that problem. Their main supply has been stopped because of gasoline diesel probably contamination, and this is what they're faced with. Bear in mind, it's not SHTF globally or nationally or even regionally. It's one town, it's a huge city in terms of Nunavut. It's about nearly 8,000 people. So how reliable is your water source from petroleum contamination and grid down? Or even now?
Somewhere in between that lake and the 7,000 residents who live just down there over the hill, there's a problem with the water. Petroleum hydrocarbons. And it means we have no drinking water in Iqaluit.
Clearly without drinking water at all, it crashes everything. There is no economic activity and people will die quickly and in large numbers. Not a desirable outcome for us as preppers.
Iqaluit's mayor announced on social media at 3:30 yesterday, don't drink the water, and followed up after an emergency city council meeting.
Golden rule, if you smell anything in your water at all other than chlorine smells, don't drink it. Don't wait for the government to figure it out and tell you not to drink it or bathe in it. Be really cautious with this. Anytime at all you've got any doubts at all about how your municipal water is, do not drink it directly. Drink other sources or treat it. But if it's chemical, petrochemical smells particularly, or any sort of serious strong chemical odour, including sulphur, don't drink it until it's been tested and you know it's safe to do so. Here at my home I actually run all our municipal water through the Berkey filter, so I've got a few hours to even a day or two before I drink the water that came out of the tap, and that means that I've got an extended period of time where if there is a problem with it, hopefully I'll find out before I start drinking it. But again, I would not drink nor would I run petrochemical water through any sort of filter, and I wouldn't advise anybody to do that. If it smells of petrochemicals, you can't use that water, and you should really consider not using it for agriculture either.
Iqaluit gets pretty frequent boil water orders, usually from when pipes are being repaired and sediment can be dislodged. This is worse. You can't boil it away. You can't filter it out.
You might come across videos online about how to actually remove petrochemicals from water sources. What I will tell you is don't do it. It's not safe and it's not practical without industrial techniques, and it's huge energy input to do so. It really won't be something that you're going to be able to do. You can sort of look at videos and you can see how they remove olive oil from water using little bottles and stuff like that. People will talk about distilling and stuff like that, but on an individual prepper level, you can't do it. Don't even bother. Switch to other sources.
It's bad enough that pregnant women and infants are being instructed not to bathe. Almost every baby born on Baffin Island is born here in Iqaluit, the regional medical hub. A water problem that hurts pregnant women and infants gets multiplied here. A local state of emergency has been declared, schools and offices are closed, the territorial government says they're flying in 80,000 liters of bottled water, and that the testing results for the water supply will take at least 5 business days.
Wow, they're emergently flying in almost 10 litres of water per person. That's really not enough, is it, for all use? And in fact in SHTF they'd be flying no water in. The testing takes a while because it requires specialised labs. Petrochemicals isn't just a chemical, it's tens of thousands of different chemicals, and they really want to know exactly what's in that water to try and figure out where it came from, and also what harm has been done, what the cancer risk will be to people over time.
So this is how Iqaluit residents are getting water. A city truck fills up here at the Sylvia Grinnell River, alongside other residents. And this is a popular spot to get fresh water, even when the pipes are providing potable water. They truck it into Iqaluit, where it's doled out by the jug. This isn't a perfect fix. This water still needs to be boiled before drinking.
Again, for SHTF, you need gasoline to get to this lake, and you need gasoline to get to the river. Or you're going to be faced with a huge walk, and it could be very dangerous and also environmentally bad conditions. So you need to have water sources that are easily obtainable, and you need to figure out where they are. And in a lot of cases, I suspect people, if they look at water seriously as a choke point in SHTF global preps, they might have to relocate. It's just not something you can try and make do without, is it?
As bad as this is, it could get a lot worse in very short order. Iqaluit usually has permanent snow on the ground before Halloween. Imagine what this scene looks like when the snow hits.
So they have one reservoir, it's called Lake Geraldine. It's high up above the city. They use gravity, obviously, and it uses runoff from snow and ice to actually fill. They do get rain there, but it's not a huge amount of rain, though it is a coastal area. A lot of the time what they get is snow, though they're getting less and less snow with global warming happening. But the water supply of Iqaluit was actually very fragile before this incident, and this is a report from July 2021.
That dam you see behind me, that's Lake Geraldine. That's Iqaluit's main water source.
Iqaluit councillors are worried the city can't keep up with growing water use. Its reservoir is Lake Geraldine, and it's not filling up like it used to.
Iqaluit's mayor and deputy mayor are now part of a task force looking for solutions to the growing water demand. Lake Geraldine water levels are lower than usual because of less rain, a higher population, and frequent system breaks. The city is working with various government bodies to come up with a short-term plan. Huples is a city councillor. Earlier this summer, he asked council to review its water plans.
I'm concerned that this lake is much too small for the size of the community. That's why I'm raising the issue. I think we need more water than this.
The city's water troubles aren't new. Andrew Medeiros is a professor with Dalhousie University that specializes in fresh water. He's been telling the city it needs to look for new sources since 2015. He says the city needs a backup plan for winter when ice covers Lake Geraldine. The best option is transporting water from lakes north of the city, but that is expensive to do.
So that end of winter resupply is the main issue going forward if Iqaluit wants to grow and develop in a normal fashion.
A public consultation is expected to take place within the next few weeks. In the meantime, the city is looking into how to save its water and find an alternative source.
Large number of communities in North America are much more fortunate than the people of Nunavut, but they actually also have municipal water supplies that are very, very dodgy. Built in the 19th century, sort of revamped a little bit on and off, filtering plants that are very old, pipes that are corroding. It's not just an issue for Iqaluit, it's an issue for everybody wherever they are. You have to really seriously think about your municipal water supply. But I'm very sure this will now be a bigger priority for the Iqaluit Council than it was in July of 2021. Climate change heating is actually hitting northern Canada much worse than us in the south, though it's apparent to me that it's hitting us in the south. We haven't had any record-breaking days here in Newmarket, just outside of Toronto in Ontario, Canada, but it's been hot, it's been warm, warmer than usual, like 10 degrees, 10 centigrade hotter than usual for weeks now. And I'm sitting here and people are walking around in shorts and t-shirts, and I believe it's the 11th or 12th of October. Forgive me, I'm retired, I have no idea what day it is.
Water bottles flying off the shelves at local stores who are charging as much as $14 for 3.5 liters. The emergency declared after residents and officials found evidence of fuel contamination, some describing a strong diesel smell. Residents have flocked to a nearby river to fill their drinking, bathing, and washing needs, but officials stress the need to boil the water for at least a minute before use. The city has since made clean water available at a local hockey rink. They expect sample results in the coming days. In Ottawa, Nigel Newlove, City News.
One of the problems Nunavut has is they have TV up there, they have radio up there, they have reporters up there, is that local stations like the ones in Toronto, City TV, actually will not send anybody up there because it's too far and too expensive. But at the same time, they don't actually get local voices to talk. So you have a talking head. This reporter is in Ottawa. To get to Iqaluit, the only way to get there is to fly. There's no roads to Iqaluit. It is 1,304 miles away. For those of us who are civilized, 2,099 kilometers away. It's basically on the other side of the planet as far as most of us are concerned.
Local stores are running out of bottled water, and some residents are paying as much as $40 a case.
Having our stores provide water is not a great function for us because it's so expensive.
Grocery stores are now out of water, so are the gasoline stations. They don't have water left. There's no water to buy. And that's within a day.
The Sylvia Grinnell River is Iqaluit's safest water source right now.
Getting fresh water because we were told not to drink the water, tap water at home, and it does smell like diesel.
Dinos Tikovic was among the people gathering water at the river's edge. Others lined up at trucks filled with river water in the city's center. Both sources need to be boiled for 1 minute, according to public health.
Normally, a litre of water in a bottle costs them $6.99 Canadian, about $5 American. That's the normal price. Everything has to be flown in or shipped in. It's very expensive, it's very far away. The price per litre for 1 litre of water actually hit $9 Canadian, which is $7.25 American for 1 litre of water before they actually ran out. I also suspect the buckets that you're seeing are new, and I suspect they also you no longer can buy anywhere. So you need to have enough water storage containers that you can carry easily. Remember, bigger containers, more water, harder to carry. And you need to have storage in-house or where you're going to be that's large enough to actually make crops from in an extended emergency, not just for drinking, though obviously drinking is a priority. If you had a Berkey water filter there, or at least a whole bunch of Aqua Pure tablets, you've saved yourself a lot of energy, a lot of power and a lot of time, if only because you don't have to boil. That's kind of an important thing. Anything you can do in SHTF that limits the calories and expenditure you have to burn to survive is a bonus. The other issue specific for Iqaluit and most of Nunavut is they have no soil. A lot of it's just rock, and they have no trees, obviously. So if there's no power supply, there's no electricity, no gas, no gasoline, you're actually going to have a really hard time boiling anything, including food and including water. So if you're in an area like that, or if you have very little fuel supply in terms of wood, you might want to seriously consider using SODIS method, which I mentioned before, SODIS. If you don't know what that is, look it up and have enough containers to do it yourself. You may not want to use a wood fire to boil water. One, it takes a lot of energy, it takes a lot of time, but it also is not really great from a security point of view early on in grid down. Whereas SODIS on a hidden roof or on a hidden area over 2 days, you can get pretty safe water. No water is going to be 100% safe unless you filter it properly and use chemical treatment as well.
Drastic measures, all because the city's tap water might be tainted with fuel. Pregnant women and infants are being told they shouldn't even bathe in it.
My wife's breastfeeding, so she's been consuming this water for a couple weeks now, and we were told it was safe until yesterday, so it's kind of frustrating.
On social media, people have been complaining the tap water smells like fuel for more than a week. The city did tests, but the mayor says they kept missing the problem.
You know, I'm also frustrated. I was out there saying that the water is fine. All of our tests indicated that it was fine, and you know, of course, I trust science.
It's fair to trust science. Science, generally speaking, is the thing we should trust. And I would actually say that in this particular case, if my water smells of diesel, I'm not drinking it, and I'm not bathing in it, and I'm not laundering in it. And I don't need the government to tell me that, but a lot of people do, and it's kind of sad. People were like agitated, trying to get online, trying to say, should we be drinking this, should we not be drinking this, what are we going to do? But as a prepper, as soon as you think there's contamination of your water or food supply, you stop taking that. You don't wait for the government. But as a prepper, you have redundancies and backups to supplant what you've given up voluntarily in case there's an issue. This is called precautionary principle in science. You really should trust science, and you really shouldn't trust human beings who work, because they often get things wrong and don't check things they don't feel need checking when they should have, and they didn't. When they finally checked it, oops, we got a problem.
You know, I don't actually go out there and test it. People were coming with results saying, you know, it's coming out clean.
But then this week, public works staff opened a tank at the water treatment plant and noticed a strong petroleum smell. That prompted their emergency. That water has been sent for testing out of territory. This expert says figuring out the source of the problem and the risk will take time.
Petroleum compounds are made of hundreds and sometimes thousands of different chemicals. So it's very difficult, and usually you need specialized labs to actually look for specific compounds.
None of this you'll have in SHTF, so trust your nose, trust your gut. But more importantly, filter all water. And if your water supply is coming from somewhere you have not walked the entire water course and seen if there's factories there or what's going on, filter it using a Berkey, Sawyer, etc. are temporary and not that reliable. Have a solid system. A Berkey is what I recommend, and use that. And if you've got any doubts at all about that water, when you've done the Berkey, use a chemical filtration method as well. preferably chlorine. But imagine, if you will, your taps are off. Not just contaminated, you can't use, but there's no water supply at all. There's been a massive nuclear war between India and China, and goodness grief, everything's crashed. People are panicking, people have fled out of the cities, there's nothing going on, government's effectively fallen, hopefully temporarily in the West, we don't know. We're very worried about ice age now coming because of climate change due to nuclear fission material in the atmosphere blocking sunlight. So now every single water source in your area, that pristine little river that's just over there for me, everybody in my neighbourhood is using that. They're using it to poop in, put their kids in, their babies in, to clean them up because they've got feces over them. They're using them to do their laundry. People may have diarrhea, may have cholera. All of the water sources that look fine right now, imagine what they will look like if there is no government, no economics going on, and everybody's using them. That's what you would be faced with. And it's best to stop kidding yourself that a $20 Sawyer mini filter is the answer to the problem here, because it really isn't. This is a map of my neighbourhood. I'm leaving in 7 days' time, so I'm quite happy to share the details of where I am. It took a bit of a delay. But if you look at my area, I'm quite blessed. I've got 4 to 5 tributaries that are separate and start in different areas of the hills to the south of me that run into Lake Simcoe. So I know within 2 kilometres I have a lot of fresh water, and if one source is damaged, I can switch to another source. I have much more water much closer than that to me, but one of the things you don't want to be taking water from are storm ponds. These are small little lakes that, may have frogs in them or toads that you might be planning to use. A lot of storm ponds have a lot of waste in them at the bottom especially, and if they dry out or etc., you'll see what you're drinking isn't the best. You want running water that hasn't gone through agriculture and hasn't gone through industrial areas and hasn't gone through urban areas. And even then you need to filter it, and you need to consider using chemical treatment on top of the filtration, at least while there's a lot of people around. Swimming pools. Yeah, they're nice to know where they are in the area. That's why you need to use Google Maps and print out satellite photographs. Yeah, they're a source of water that you could potentially use and grid down. Unless it's your swimming pool, you're going to encounter issues of access, and you may have problems with that. There may be security concerns. The water itself isn't really that great, and you're going to have to treat it because you don't know how it's been treated unless it's yours. And a lot of the water treatments, I really don't want to drink a lot of the chemicals that they actually use to clean swimming pools. And to be frank with you, in grid down, I don't care how many swimming pools you have around you, they're not going to last long. Where people have a lot of swimming pools, it seems to be hot, so evaporation occurs. So if you have a swimming pool, and I know a lot of preppers do, make sure you've got a solid wooden lattice covering for it, not just a flimsy piece of plastic or tarp. You really want to make sure it doesn't evaporate away on you, and you want to really consider the chemicals you're putting into that water. Are you okay drinking 3,000 litres of water with that chemical in it? So really consider that. If your water backup is one stream and one swimming pool, that's insufficient. You really need to search out, think. Now this might mean wading into a bush or a forest area that's within half a kilometre of your house and bushing into it. Especially in the winter, it's a lot easier, especially where I am, and actually looking for water holes, ponds that are actually inside of wilderness areas where you're pretty sure people aren't going to go, and are localized, and taking the water from there. That's going to be much safer for you than taking it from the storm pond at the end of the street in terms of health. And exercise is good, right? So you need filters, you need backup filters, you need them to be able to handle tens of thousands of litres of water, not just a couple of hundred. You need to have SODIS, you need to know what it is. If you don't know what soda is, go and look it up right now online, learn what it is, make sure you have enough containers for it. SODIS might work a lot better for you than burning wood to boil water, especially if there's a lot of people around you and you're nervous about security. SODIS is silent and quiet and pretty effective. Now, I would use glass bottles if you have them rather than plastic bottles, because over time you'll absorb a lot of plastic, which is a petrochemical, but needs must. If you can legally do it, have rain catchment and snow catchment now. If you can't, have the stuff to do rain and snow catchment. Obviously, if you live in the Nevada desert, your setup will be different from mine. I am going into a much wetter area than the area on the map I showed you. The area I'm going to literally has 3 separate streams bubbling to the surface within about 100 meters of my house. There's a lot of water there. and there'll be a lot of rain and snow there to catch on top of that. So I'm not really that worried about water, and I'm not really worried about petrochemical contamination where I'm going. It's a much bigger problem here. Look at railway lines as well. A lot of gas, a lot of chemicals are transported by rail line. Are they going to knock out your only source of water for your town or your city if it derails and spills? So for too many preppers, their water solution to prepping is municipal or one well and one river or one pond. That's insufficient. If it gets contaminated, it's blown, it's gone. I mean, sure, you can drink chemical water with petrochemicals in it, and cancer will probably happen in a few years down the line. But the main problem here is reproduction. The ability of children to be born who aren't handicapped is somewhat important to the survival of the species and your family in SHTF. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Spare a thought for people who are stuck up in Iqaluit right now with this problem. It's going to go on for a long time, I suspect. One of the major issues they have is they don't have enough water anyway for the population growth. So they're going to have to use a lot of the water in their reservoir, Lake Geraldine, to actually flush this stuff out, and it's going to take a while. So they've got kind of a problem if they don't get much snow again this winter, again because of climate change. So they may have a major systemic problem on. The answer is to build pipes from other lakes that are further to the north and pump it down. And that of course will cost money, that will cost energy, and then again you'll need to have people supervising it to make sure it doesn't become contaminated. So whatever source of water you're using, assume that people are going to poop in it, people are going to die in it, assume the factories are going to leak, assume fuel depots are going to leak, assume cars and trucks are going to leak, assume that your source could be stinking of diesel or gasoline and be unsafe to drink. And if it's your only source, where's your secondary, third and fourth sources? Clearly rainwater treatment and snow capture are going to be a major impact if you are so dependent on one central source of water and that source is knocked out. And this of course will be an ongoing issue in SHTF. If your water supply is okay, is there a gasoline station, is there a fuel truck depot nearby above the water source that over the next 1 to 10 to 20 years could actually rust, crack and pour chemicals into your water source? How fast is your water flushed from the system that you're using? All those sort of things are going to be kind of important to think about, and it's best to think about them now. And I honestly think for a lot of people watching this video, the only real answer to long-term water in grid down is relocation. I'm not just saying that because I'm being flippant. I mean it. It's not something you can hope to budget through. If you don't have ample, easily obtained, clear, fresh water in grid down, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, you're not going to survive very long. It's not going to be doable. And you may have to relocate after SHTF has happened to get clean, fresh water. And those sources are going to be guarded. Those sources are not yours, and you're now moving in a weakened condition without society to try and get to fresh water. That is not a great idea. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. If you liked it, give me a sub or a thumbs up or a thumbs down, or send me $1 million on my Patreon account. Do whatever you want. Have a great week, have a great day. I am really getting close to moving, so I'm kind of desperately trying to get packed. Toodles. So we're at the campsite. There's the rented canoe. Some nice flowers down there, some lilies, purple. And this is the end of this. There is 2 other campsites on it, one there and one there. Pretty private. Sort of loon on the way in. The only negative so far is flat camping grounds. That would do, I think, for Kitty maybe. This has been brought to you by an Abused Terrier Production 2021. Woofy! Woofy!